Welcome in everyone to the 6th episode of Bulletin Sports Talk, which can now be found on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. I'm your host, Brian Rathbone, and on today's show, we have Josh Brayer, who is responsible for making our sports page look great each and every day. Today, we're going to be talking about Sunday's Super Bowl and a couple gambling tips from a couple of amateurs. So anyway, here's Josh. Josh, how you doing today?
Doing all right. Thanks. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing great.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, anytime. I miss sharing a cubicle with you. It's been a while.
Been a while, but at least we have some technology. We can still interact and have do stuff like this where we get a chance to have some fun with some with the Super Bowl, with some look at how it might play out, and talk some maybe make a little bit of money, but just have some fun with it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, the important thing is that this is just for fun. Don't go blowing your paycheck on the Super Bowl, especially with the advice that we're giving.
Yeah, exactly. No, we're just strictly, recreational. I'm not a professional gambler by any means. I don't do any handicapping myself or anything like that. I consume a lot of information from people who are, professionals, and I try to, take in as much information as I can. And then when I do decide to, put a little bit of money on something, I'm, looking at, just weighing all that information and then just, kind of thinking about how I think about the game and then, picking my spots, but just in small doses. It's mostly just for fun, to keep the game fun and interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this game. Sure. On Sunday, we got the defending champs, the Chiefs, back in it again, and we have the Buccaneers with Tom Brady, who's been to a Super Bowl or 2 or 10.
Yeah.
So Josh, what do you think about this matchup? Is it a fun one for you to as a football fan to kind of get into?
I think it is. You kind of have, the new up and coming, young, fun, Kansas City Chiefs, who won it last year. And, they're a lot of fun to watch. They do a lot of stuff that's, a lot of creative stuff on offense. And then, with the Bucs, they haven't been to this game, to the Super Bowl since 2002, I'm pretty sure, when they won it with actually John Gruden as their coach. Mm-hmm. But of course Brady has been there, so you got the experience of Brady with the young team and the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and I think it's going to be interesting to see those two kind of different styles clash on the field and see what wins out. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting. We'll see how it plays out, but it should be, one thing that I find particularly interesting is a lot of people have been, sort of talking about the quarterbacks and that, and we've seen since the end of the year, a lot of young coaches, get hired for a lot of these coaching openings, but we have two head coaches in their 60s here who, are getting it done, which, I also find pretty fascinating. So, and that's another nothing you can really bet on, but something that I find kind of interesting in this game as well.
Yeah, that's a good point with the old coaches, and to kind of get there, they each, beat fairly young coaches kind of early in their careers.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. Hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that's true.
Just thinking of that Packer game, there's, where the Bucs won, which, I'm still trying to get over, and trying to come to grips with that. The Packer season came to an end in the way it did, but I think there were just a couple instances where the inexperience from coaches, from Matt LaFleur kind of presented itself, especially kind of in that that final minute of the second half or the first half, where they had a timeout. They could have used it to set up a defense that, reports, afterwards where they didn't quite like the look and they wish they would have used the timeouts. They thought they didn't have a timeout. There's just kind of that timeout fumbling, and then obviously, electing to kick a field goal, late in the fourth quarter, rather than, gosh, I hate talking about this guy, that field goal.
It's brutal.
That field goal.
No, I mean, it's tough. I mean, there's, it's easy for us, we're not in the moment to kind of look at that and say, like, maybe should have done this, should have done that. We can definitely, talk about those things. But ultimately those guys are paid a lot of money to make those decisions and do what they think is best for their team. I mean, they ultimately know what's best for their team. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly some questionable things. I mean, these are obviously, in the playoffs, it's obviously win or go home. I mean, that's nothing, not telling anybody, anything they don't know already. But, it's, so it's easy to sit here and say, like, should have done this, should have done that. You could say that for the Bills too. They seem like they, McDermott got tight in some spots, and, you're on the road against the defending national champions, and, you're kicking field goals from inside the 5. So, you gotta, I think that's one of the reasons why I think with this game coming up, we might, because those, the coaches who got there took a little more risk, and they saw how not taking risk, worked out for the teams that they played, could play a factor, I think. And I think we can use some of that information to our advantage when we're looking at how the game might play out. So those are, that's all information that I think we can use. I think, we already know, Andy Reid, with the coach of the Chiefs he doesn't like to punt. He's gonna trust his offense. They've, on fourth downs and, converting on fourth downs. So that's all stuff, there are so many props in this game that we can use that information to, potentially find some winners here in the betting market too. So, so we can, I mean, do you want to talk about some of that stuff, or where do you want
to? I just want to add on to your point right there with
Andy
Reid, going, not wanting to punt. Yeah, this seems like a game where you don't want to bring your kicker to a touchdown fight. So
yes, that's true. Yes, so exactly.
These are two offenses that can really go, and chances are, if you're having to bring out your kicker, it might not go well. But
exactly, yeah, you don't want to be settling for field goals. So I think we'll see. We won't see a lot of punts. I don't think we'll see, a lot of field goals. So if you're looking at props, like, those are some things, and I think you just want to be careful a little bit too, especially this late, this close to the game. Some of that stuff has already been bet. So if you're looking to, at some of those, some of the numbers might look a little low, but I still think there can be some value there on some of those, under punts, under, total punts, maybe under, there's certain field goal kicking props and stuff, like shortest field goal or number of field goals or whatever. So those are all things, knowing how, it's a Super Bowl, there's no reason to, get conservative here, especially because, like we said, it's worked for both of these coaches to be aggressive in the past. So, I'm with you on that.
And that's Andy Reid and Bruce Arians for you. They're guys that like to risk it and like to go for it.
Yeah, they have every right to, trust their, you got Mahomes and Brady. If you can't trust those guys, who can you trust, to convert on fourth downs, crucial fourth downs? Like, they both have done it, they've proven they can do it. And so there's no reason to change that philosophy here.
All right, so let's get into it a little bit. What are some of your kind of favorite bets that you're kind of looking at right now, just a couple days before the Super Bowl?
Yeah, so some of the things that I've been kind of trying to think about, like, how do I think this game is going to play out a little bit. So, and just looking at some trends for some of these players and teams over the years. And so one thing that a lot of people that's gotten talked about a lot is, this Tampa Bay defense. And you can say, defense is a little bit devalued in, the current, the way the game is played, but it's still, there is, when there's such a discrepancy between the Bucs defense and the Chiefs defense, I think it's something to look at. And I think where the Bucs are going to, look at how other teams have had any success defending the Chiefs is, putting some pressure, trying to get some pressure on Patrick Mahomes, trying to speed up his thought process. And they certainly have the defensive line to do it. They're and also the Chiefs are a little bit undermanned on their offensive line. So, they were already playing without their starting left tackle. And then, one of their tackles had been out most of the year. And then their other starting tackle, Eric Fisher, ruptured his Achilles in the AFC Championship game. So they're having to shuffle things around on their offensive line. And, already the strength of the Bucs defense has been their pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
So with those things in mind, I'm thinking, well, what could that, how could that affect things that we're looking at? And so one of the things, that I think the Chiefs, that might happen is, Mahomes maybe has to scramble a little bit more, maybe if they're getting pressure, on him, maybe he scrambles a little bit more. And last year, one of the most popular prop bets was Patrick Mahomes over rushing yards. That was like one of the most heavily bet. And it ended up, most people should have cashed that because he was like over 45, or I can't remember the exact number. I think it was at like around 47, which was certainly about 14, 15 yards over even some of the highest numbers. But then at the very end of the game, if you remember, he took a bunch of knees, to ice the game. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of just taking a knee, he went back several yards to try to kill some clock.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up, a lot of people either pushed or lost because of that, because those count against rushing yards. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think partially because Mahomes, a few weeks ago before in the divisional round against the Browns, before he went out of the game because of, whatever it was, a concussion. I don't know if it was actually a concussion, but when he went out of the game before that, he had hurt his toe, if you remember. And so people, I think, were worried about him scrambling, and he didn't scramble hardly at all in the AFC Championship game. But it's been, since the last time he played, it's been 2 weeks, and I've heard some reports that at least he says that he's feeling a lot better. So I think, I liked, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, but I like his rushing yards over. I think last year it was like around 30 or something. And this year you can, so we're looking at the DraftKings Sportsbook just as kind of like so we have a unified place to look at numbers. And the number on the DraftKings website is on their sportsbook for him is 19.5. So, I like the over there because I think I don't think they'll have a lot of designed runs for him necessarily, but I do think, between their creative play calling and his need to scramble to sort of, put those pass rushers, like, make them think a little bit. I think, I see him going over 20. So that's one thing that I've looked at. Let's see. The other thing that has gotten a lot of conversation is, for as much success as Brady has had in the Super Bowl, he's traditionally a very slow starter. I think the number that I've heard is in the nine Super Bowls that he's played in, I think he scored like 3 points in the first quarter total or something like that.
Yeah,
it's really low. So, there's no, you can't, it's not necessarily predictive, but when you have that much of a sample size, you have to, you look at that information. So I've been looking to play like, first half unders. You can look at, if you want to look at, I think the first half number, like the total is around like 27.5. So that's, something to look at. You can look at quarters too, but there tends to be, a little bit of a higher variance with the quarters. But that's certainly one way to look. Another thing that, I've been hearing a lot about is, if you're looking at props, like, sort of more novelty props, there's, like looking at coin flips, I'm not into the coin flip one as much. It's pretty much 50-50. Tails has won a little bit more. Some people think that, on these commemorative coins that the head side is weighted a little bit more. I'm not sure if there's any truth to that. Mm-hmm. Tails has hit, I think, like in the 54 Super Bowls, it's hit 29 times. So it's just slight, it's hit slightly more, but I think we can look at, what will happen with, who wins, or who gets the ball first. So if you look at, the Chiefs are almost, anytime the Chiefs win the coin toss, they almost always defer, which means they want to choose in the second half, mm-hmm. which usually means they're going to get the ball in the second half. And so that's almost 100% of the time they're doing that. And that's kind of been the trend lately for most teams to do. They prefer to get the ball in the second half to start the second half. But in week 16 and 17, the Bucs actually changed course and have been taking the ball when they won the coin toss. And I think we could see that happen in this game, because if you think about it, what's, one way to try to, if you're the Bucs, the last thing you want is to play from behind, right? Mm-hmm. So if they win, I think there's at least a reasonable chance that they will take the ball and try to keep Mahomes off the field early, try to cool him down and try to get some points and not let that Chiefs offense get going to start the game. So I think, you can look at, possibly, the Bucs to get the ball first, or any props like around that, like who's going to have the first punt, who's going to have, the first down. If you see any things like that, you might want to, lean to the Bucs, because, it wouldn't surprise me if they have the ball first in this game. So, and that also makes me like the, first quarter unders, first half unders, with the Bucs getting the ball, if the Bucs get the ball first, which I think there's a pretty reasonable, you can make a pretty good argument that that's more likely than not. So, yeah.
You brought up a point, earlier with the Chiefs offensive line, missing both tackles. One of their starting tackles is going to be Mike Remmers, who, bless his heart, former Oregon State walk-on, who's had a very long and well-paid career in the NFL, but is had his struggles in the Super Bowl.
Yes,
the one Super Bowl he played in, he couldn't really touch Von Miller that game against the with the Panthers against the Broncos.
Yep.
So one of the things I was thinking is like, all right, what are some of the over unders for sacks for someone like a Jason Pierre-Paul and a Shaquille Barrett, guys who are going to be coming off the edge. So right now with the over under set for Shaquille Barrett, who those two with him and Pierre-Paul, had a field day against Green Bay's offensive line that was also kind of
true,
hurt at the tackle position. So
right.
What do you think of that as a possible bet for.
Yeah, I think. So I'm trying to see if there are numbers for individual players. Yeah.
Yeah. So
JPP. Yeah. It's a half. They're all, if I'm looking at the sacks, it's all like over under a half.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. No. I think. Yeah. I think that's a good point. Yeah, I think those could be good bets. The overs are, plus money. So, that could be something worth looking at for sure. There's also like sack totals and stuff. I'm not sure I love those as much, but yeah, the Chiefs are going to pass.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to. They're gonna, Mahomes is gonna drop back and pass it, so there's gonna be opportunity there for sure. And I think there's probably a reasonable chance that, I think there's probably a better than 50-50 chance that at least one of those edge guys, those are the two favorites. If you look at the numbers, Barrett is plus 120 and Pierre-Paul's plus 110. So those, they're telling you those are the two most likely guys to get a sack in this game. So, yeah, you can definitely look at that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think it's going to be as good as the Chiefs offense is. I think that's going to be a tough task for their offensive line because.
Yeah, I agree.
Just going back to that Packer game. Now Green Bay still had a really solid offensive line, but they even without Bakhtiari, who wasn't playing
right
at tackle, they're still solid, but they kind of got exposed, especially at those tackle positions. So
yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, I think they're gonna. I think that's the way they. I think that's what they're gonna do. Like the Bucs. Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator, he wants to bring pressure. He's gonna, they've had 2 weeks to, look at film and see, where they think the weak spots are going to be. And I do think they've got to feel like their best option to try to, keep the game close is to get as much pressure as they can on Mahomes. So, anything that sacks or anything that plays off of that concept, I think can work for you for sure. I do think it wouldn't surprise me. I think a lot of people, I do think the Chiefs, they want to throw it. Let's be honest, but it also wouldn't surprise me terribly if they do feel like they're getting a ton of pressure, that they use the running game a little bit more than they have of late. And I think we did see that a fair bit in the Super Bowl last year. Damian Williams had a pretty good game.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think, if they're feeling like, hey, we're just taking a little bit too much heat, we want to take some pressure off of our tackles, that's one way to do it, is to use the running game a little bit more, use some draws, just to make those, try to keep those edge rushers honest, a little more honest, just to slow them down a little bit, give your tackles a little bit better, a little bit of a break from having to drop back and pass protect every down. So that's, I could see that, being a possibility as well. So the problem is we don't really know who, the Chiefs have a few different potential running backs who could get the touches. Edwards-Helaire, I believe, is healthy, but you also have Darrell Williams and Le'Veon Bell. So it's a little I could I'd be wary of saying I have any idea of who they're going to lean on in this game, and it could just end up being like a hot hand approach.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's if you if any more information comes out of, where you find out like, they're planning on using a particular running back more, they probably won't tip that, but that's a possibility as well. But yeah, I like your idea of, looking at the sack total, sacks for individual players. I will say that I tend to try to lean towards more like, if I'm looking at props, like over under, things that have like just two outcomes. So like over under. Now these with the sack totals, they are, they are in a sense over under. So yeah, I mean, I think those are fine bets. Things that I would stay away from, generally speaking, though, would be like how many passing yards will, if you want to bet over under a number for passing yards for a quarterback. But they also have props that say, will he be between, 250 and 275 and 276 and 300? Those type of bets I would stay away from, just because there's, anything where there's multiple outcomes is, much more in favor of the book than the better. So look for I would look for things that are over under or yes or no, or one thing, just two outcomes that you're have much more success with those. So, yeah,
one of the kind of neat things with the Super Bowl is it always seems like there is just kind of like that random player who all of a sudden has a way bigger impact than
that's true,
probably expecting, because it's like, all right, well, the Bucs are probably going to try and stop Tyreek Hill after he went for like 200 plus yards and 3 touchdowns in the first quarter earlier this season, or we're going to try and slow down Chris Godwin. So you kind of see these players kind of step up. Damian Williams, last year he had a probably a way bigger role than anyone's probably expecting. Do you have a feel for who might be one of those players this year?
Yeah, I think you could look at the Chiefs. I think potentially like Sammy Watkins if he plays. I mean, I think he's questionable. I also kind of like the Demarcus Robinson, who's kind of been in the news lately because he had a close contact with a barber who ended up testing positive for COVID, but he was cleared today. He was cleared. He's 100% going to play. So let me see. I think so. Demarcus Robinson's total is 13.5 on DraftKings, and he's not. I mean, obviously Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are the focal point of that offense, but we know, like you said, the Bucs are going to do everything they can to try to take those guys away. Another thing we can touch on is generally speaking, there are fewer penalties in the Super Bowl. The refs don't like to insert themselves into the game too much. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Bucs defense tries to get physical with those players to try to, keep them from burning them, like they have in the past. So if that's the case, if we think there's a reasonable chance of that happening, then I kind of like this Demarcus Robinson over 13.5. I mean, the Chiefs use a lot of these, like, in lieu of a running game, they'll use a short passing game. They use the little, like, it's like almost like a forward handoff. Those count as passes and receptions. So, and Demarcus Robinson is someone who, has a lot of speed, and he's not going to be a focal point of the Bucs defense. So he's someone, and that's a pretty low number. I mean, he can, now, so it's a little risky, but I mean, I think, he's someone I would look at. You could look at Mecole Hardman. His number is 28.5. I don't love that one as much. But and Sammy Watkins is 36.5. So, I'd want to wait. If you like Sammy Watkins, I would wait until you're sure he's playing. My hunch is that he probably plays, but I don't think we know for sure right now. I don't think we know 100% that he's going to play. So I like those are two guys that I like for sure. It's hard to say with the Bucks because they have so many weapons. Wouldn't shock me terribly if Gronk has a game here. It's the Super Bowl. Brady might, if the Chiefs are having success with locking down Godwin and Evans, then they could look. We know Brady trusts Gronk. I mean, he brought him. He brought him to the team. He wanted him there. So now it's a little risky because Gronk hasn't done anything in the playoffs yet.
I don't know, man. He picked up a huge play on the screenplay.
As far as like anything that would give you confidence that he would, he will have a ton of receiving yards in this game. But
sure,
if you're looking for like a flyer on a Bucks player, that one might be something you look at. So yeah, those are kind of the players I would look at for that.
All right. So speaking of Gronk, I have these player props, and one of the things is like, is who will have like more receiving yards between this player and this player, player and this player. So I just kind of want to run down, some of these real quick and see kind of what your thought.
Yeah.
So who would you think would have more receiving yards between Gronk and Mecole Hardman?
That's a good one. Well, their numbers on DraftKings are very similar. Gronk's at 29.5 and Hardman's at 28.5. Gosh, that's a tough one. I would probably lean with Hardman, and most of the time, if their numbers are close, I would probably most of the time lean with the Chiefs player, just because I think they're gonna, I believe there are going to be a lot more opportunities for receivers to make plays. Mm-hmm. I think that the Bucks will at least try to run the ball some, just to kind of slow the game down and milk the clock and give Mahomes fewer opportunities if they can have success running the ball. So I would probably lean towards. I don't have a strong feeling about that one, but I would probably lean towards Hardman.
Yeah, and then here's another one between two of the team's probably number one receiver. I don't know if you'd consider Mike Evans Bucks number one, but
I think so.
All right, between him and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I think you got to go with Hill. I mean, on DraftKings, is that actually a bet?
Yeah.
And it's like just pick who's going to have more.
Yeah.
Is it like minus like 200?
Yeah. Tyreek Hill's minus 200. Yeah. Mike Evans plus 154.
Yeah. So look, I mean, that's because Hill, his number is like 92.5 and Evans is 63.5. Mm-hmm. And I thought I heard something that Evans might not be 100%. Do you know anything about that, or is he? Do we know for sure? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know for sure, but that's just basically Mike Evans this entire year.
I think true.
I think he's been
always hurt.
Mike Evans. I guess I would not quite 100%.
Yeah, I guess I would. With that, I would probably still lean towards laying the minus 200 with Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm. Just not great value, but
yeah, I mean he's gonna look he's a folk. That's who Mahomes wants to throw to. My guess is the Bucks will try to have a different game plan with him, but the Chiefs are absolutely going to do everything they can to get the ball in his hands. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I like I still like Hill there. It's a bit to lay the minus 200, but if I had to pick one, I probably would still do that. I would probably still lay minus 200. Because if you're just doing over under, like there's a 30-yard gap, expectation from the books on those two players. So to me, I would still probably lean towards laying the minus 200 and taking Hill on that.
All right. One last little player prop.
Sure.
We'll go with the other two big names. Most receiving yards between Travis Kelce or Chris Godwin.
I don't know I assume that's going to be another like minus something for Kelce, but I still
minus 150 for Kelce, plus 120 for Godwin.
What was that for Kelce?
Minus 150.
Yeah, I would lay it with Kelce. I think I just have this hunch that this could be a big Kelce game. I like Kelce. I actually bet Kelce. His longest reception to be like over 24.5. I think this could be a big. I have this hunch that, the Bucs are gonna focus so hard on Tyreek Hill because he burned them so bad in the last game that, and I know the Bucs have some good linebackers who can cover in space, but man, Kelce's just another animal.
Yeah.
He rises to the occasion in these games, and I just think he's going to have a big game here. I like Kelce a lot in this game. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think I'd lean that way too, but man, Godwin, I mean, he just torched Green Bay, and so I just have these like memories burned.
Yeah, no, that's
right now.
I think a lot of people might do that especially with the getting, plus money with Godwin there. So the over under like for Kelce on DraftKings is 94.5, and for Godwin it's 77.5. So there's a 17-point discrepancy there, so that's why you're getting that vig. So yeah, I mean, it could be worth it. There's just for me, like the Bucs have like more high-end players, but the Chiefs have the best players, but the Bucs have more like higher end players, and a lot of them are weapons. So it could be Evans, it could be Godwin, it could be Antonio Brown for all we know if he's healthy enough, and then there's still Gronk and Cameron Braid, and even who knows, maybe a little Scotty Miller action. So there's just so many potential options there. It's tough, but yeah. So, but I think there will be a lot of throwing. I think if look, the total, it's a high total, so they're expecting a lot of points to be scored. So some of these player yardage overs could be nice. A lot of these guys could go over their totals. It wouldn't surprise me.
Should be a fun Super Bowl too. Pretty
it should be a lot of fun.
High-powered offenses that do have that firepower where Evans is good, Godwin's good, Antonio Brown's still good, Scotty Miller's good. It's just these these offenses are loaded, and so it should be
going to be a lot of fun. Going to be a lot of fun to watch. You got any plans or to watch, or are you just going to be at home?
Might go. I think I might head over to Eugene to see some friends who I haven't seen in a while.
Nice.
But yeah, than that.
Cool.
But yeah, last thing before we head out here, Josh, we have some novelty props that we need to really, really discuss. Like,
we should touch on some of those for sure.
We already touched on the coin toss. It's pretty 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna bet the coin toss, that's probably not something I would bet. But if you're like, so again, these are strictly for fun, like just because it's something out there. If you're gonna bet it, if I were going to bet it, I would bet tails, just because it has come up a little bit more often, and there is at least a reasonable, somewhat plausible theory out there for why that's the case. Mm-hmm. So but there's a bunch of others too. So what else? Any others that you wanted to talk about there?
Regarding the national anthem, I'm disappointed they don't have like the over/under for the time.
Right.
But do you think there'll be a scoring drive that takes less than the time that it takes the national anthem to be sung?
I do think so, but that's a lot. Minus 335 to lay for yes. Mm-hmm. I think what is it usually, like 2.5 minutes ish for the national anthem, roughly?
Yes.
So I mean, if you think about just the way the game might play out with two high-powered offenses, and if the game is close, then there's a reasonable chance there's a late scoring drive. And it doesn't say, with this one in particular, it just says scoring drive, so that could be a field goal. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be a touchdown. So yeah, I would think that someone scores in the last in under 2 minutes of game time. I would say that's probably pretty likely. There may be another prop that's like, will there be a scoring drive in the last 2 minutes of the half? You might be able to find that you don't have to lay as much vig, because minus 335 is a lot. That means you got to bet $335 to win 100, right? So that's heavy, but I'd say is probably pretty likely. Another thing I want to tell people that they can do is that I've started to look at a little bit is these numbers like minus 335 plus 250, they're basically implied odds. So you can Google implied odds calculator, and you can actually plug these numbers into that calculator and see, like, okay, so they're saying, what are the chances that this happens? And then you can kind of decide for yourself, like, okay, minus 335 means they think there's like a 80% chance. I'm just throwing out a number that's not researched. I'm just saying, hypothetically, minus 335 maybe means there's like an 70% chance this happens. If you think there's a greater than 70% chance that this happens, then it's probably it's a good bet. But if you don't, then it's not a good bet. It's not a good bet. So that's another way that people can kind of look at, if they're, and also I'll say, just because a bet is, minus 335 or minus 1,000 or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean to stay away from it, because sometimes they're pretty likely things to happen, and even though you have to bet a lot, you have to, you're not going to get a huge return, they're still so likely to happen that it's still worth it. Like, I've heard some people talk about, will there be overtime? There's been one overtime game in 54 Super Bowls. Now you might have to lay at minus 1,000, but that's still, so it sounds like a lot, but it's still, there's such a unlikely chance that there will be. Now I will say, the one overtime game involved Tom Brady, and I believe it also involved this official, the game official.
Okay.
Carl Teffers, I believe, was the official in that Patriots Falcons Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. You have to double check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So if you think that has anything to do with it, then you might want to stay away from the overtime bet. But anyway, that's just a little thing to think about. Just because you have to lay a lot doesn't necessarily make it, but you want to pick your spots. So yeah, so I would say, I think that's probably a yes. I would probably lean towards yes on that. I would probably lay the minus 335.
All right. What about They're calling it a fat man touchdown, and an offensive defensive lineman score a touchdown. Is it happening this year, Josh?
It's always possible with these offenses, but I wouldn't bet on it. It's so unlikely. I think it's so unlikely that I probably would bet no. Yeah.
Yeah, same. That's just
yeah. And yeah, it's just it. Yeah, it certainly could happen. And look, we're planning on seeing a lot of touchdowns in this game, so that certainly elevates the chances that it can happen. But yeah, I wouldn't bet on it. It's
yeah. Me neither. Yeah. I'd love to see one.
Yeah, it would be fun to see. I think people who bet on like years ago when in the Bears, the 85 Bears, a lot of people, the books got crushed on that because some people put a lot of money on that happening. I don't know why, but anyway. So, but yeah, it's extremely unlikely. Yeah, I wouldn't bet on it, but it would be fun to watch. I agree.
Yeah. All right, Josh, we'll get out of here after this last one.
Okay.
What is the first Gatorade color to be dumped on the winning coach?
So I was looking at this one and I'm thinking about betting it.
So it's a fun one.
Yeah.
It's a fun one to bet.
So the options that they have on DraftKings, and I think you'd probably find these similar options in most places, is the favorite is orange. Then there's red, yellow, green, or lime, blue, clear, / water, or purple. So one of the things about this game is both teams have similar, I think most teams have Gatorade that's a similar color of their team, uniforms. And both teams, have, red or orange. So I would certainly, orange is a pretty strong favorite there at plus 125. I think last year the Chiefs had orange. You might think because they're more red that they would have red, but last year they had orange. And you got to think that the Bucs would probably have orange. So I think there's a pretty good case to be made there for orange. Even though it's the favorite, you're still getting plus money. I would bet orange for sure. And if you were, I would definitely, it has to be orange or red. I'd be shocked if it's anything else. So you could potentially put a little bit on both because you're getting plus money there. So you can hedge a little bit and still, you won't win as much, because it's obviously can only be one or the other, but you could, kind of cover yourself a little bit, put a little bit more on orange, but put a small amount on red just in case, it ends up being red. But if it were either, that's my guess. What do you think?
Well, I'm curious to kind of know how the Gatorade is distributed, because obviously they have all these enough Gatorade for all the players to get through a game. Do they have different colors, available? Or do they just kind of just grab random ones? Is it just what's the selection like?
I don't know the details on that. My guess is that it's the same, but I don't know. That's a good question. I've never been on an NFL sideline, so I don't know.
Neither have I. So acquiring minds, want to know what the selection's like.
Yeah.
But I'm almost considering blue at plus 700.
What makes you say that?
Because it's very different from the team colors, and
True.
Plus blue Gatorade's good. And
Yeah, no, I mean,
purple and orange are my favorite. Blue's a solid choice. And
I mean, look, those are out there because it's a possibility. To me, it seems like orange or red are the much more likely. Just my guess is that it's largely based on the team's colors. But look, I have no evidence of that. So, if you wanted to throw a couple bucks on blue, if it hits, it's going to pay out nice. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
The last time the Patriots in the Super Bowl, me and my friends were, digging into this one, and it was like a different color each year. So
oh really?
It wasn't
gosh. Okay. Well, who knows? One thing I would say with props like this, where it's possible, these probably go offline, once the game starts. But if you look at these lines now and you see something start to drop like quickly, it with something like this where it's potentially known, like say the length of the national anthem, for example, like they practice it, they do sound checks, and they are professional singers, so they're usually gonna, and it's a duet this year, so they're gonna practice, and they're gonna probably get to within a pretty, within a couple seconds every time they practice. So if somehow that information, now I'm not suggesting that you try to get insider information because that's illegal. You don't want to do that. But if you start to see numbers move in a certain, like convincingly within the last hour or two before game time, that's usually because somebody knows something. And so if there's a significant line move, it's okay. That could be something worth betting on, even though you're not going to get the best of the number. That's something to look at. So with something like, the Gatorade color, if it somehow becomes known before the game starts, and you start to see, for example, blue going from like plus 700 to like plus 250, then it's probably worth throwing some money on it because someone probably knows. So, and it got out somehow. Now, I'm not suggesting that you seek out or look for insider information that's illegal. It's, you can get in big trouble for that. But I'm just saying, if you follow the lines and you start to see things like that move, like the length of the national anthem, the color of the Gatorade, stuff like that, there's probably a reason. Is all I'll say. There's probably a reason.
Yeah, I remember one of the things we bet on last year was the color of what was Demi Lovato's hair color going to be, and we were using like Instagram, and then like the day of the game we found out that we were gonna get right, so we were gonna hit. So that was kind of fun.
Nice. Did you hit it?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
But that was I guess that's our insider was Instagram. But
Instagram, yeah. Look, use all your any way you can get information. Like it's all all good. What those tools are out there, and you can use them. Nothing wrong with that.
I said that was going to be the final question, but I do have one more for you, Josh.
Okay,
this is what's your best gambling moment in the Super Bowl?
Moment?
Yeah. What was your best hit? The one that you were most excited about?
Gosh. Well, I mean, I'm relatively new-ish to this, but yeah, I mean, last year was fun. I was really, I was kind of back and forth. Like I thought about, I thought about playing, the Niners, and I ended up I think the best one was just like picking the Chiefs straight up last year. Not on the money line. I think I had the Chiefs minus 1.5 or whatever. And so look, I was nervous during the game because they were losing, but then, seeing, Mahomes like backpedal, throw that pass to Tyreek Hill, and he caught it. Like, I was just like, oh, they're gonna win. They're gonna, it was really exciting. I was at work actually, but we were still watching the game, and So that was, just hitting, like, because we actually didn't really talk about it, but, we didn't really talk about the side and the total in this game, straight up. I do think they're pretty close to right on. So you kind of just have to, if you are going to bet those, I think you kind of just have to go with what you feel, if you bet this early and you're able to get the Bucks plus 3.5, then congratulations to you. I think that was, the best bet you probably could make straight up on the side. Like I said, I do think the total might be a smidge high, but I would probably look more towards the first half, just because I think it could be a slow starting game and then it could really pick up. And so if you have the whole game total, you're going to be, under. It's just no fun because then you're rooting for less scoring, and that's a tough one. But yeah, so that was, for me, that was probably my, the most fun moment was when Mahomes hit that pass to Tyreek Hill, and then the tide started turning, and it looked, as I was going to hit, like, that was, because that was my biggest bet last year, was just Chiefs minus, I think I had -1. So that was probably the best one so far. So look, it's just more fun. I don't have a huge bankroll. It's a small amount. It's more just for, just to kind of give me something extra to root for in the game. So it's, I try not to, but it's still a little, I still root for it, even though it's a small amount of money. I still root for, you get a little nervous. But yeah, and the toughest one was on the other side was the Mahomes rushing, because I had that in the bag, and I was just like begging him not to keep backpedaling. I think I ended up pushing because but a lot of people lost because the number started going up because it was a popular bet, and a lot of people lost because it ended up going under. For anyone who bet it late, I think lost, even though everyone should have won that. So anyway, yeah. So how about you?
The best one, the Demi Lovato one was a pretty fun one. But it was one that had nothing to do with the game as well. It was what would be the first beer commercial.
Oh, okay.
And we went with, this was 2 Super Bowls ago, so the Patriots Rams, and we bet that it'd be Bon and Viv seltzer, and that was kind of like the long shot of, and
wow.
All of a sudden this commercial kind of shows up. We don't know what it is, and because seltzers, are
right.
kind of the big thing now, but a couple of years ago they weren't.
Wow.
And so that was a fun
wow,
a fun one to hit.
That's a big time one. That's big time. Nice. Very cool.
I don't gamble too much on the Super Bowl, but that was one of the fun ones.
Yeah, for sure. Nice. This was fun, man. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Love talking football, and
yeah, for sure.
Hopefully this Super Bowl's a beneficial one for you, and little money.
I just I like to see I just want to see a good game. Hopefully when if you do choose to put a little bit of cash on it, that it goes well for you, but just keep it to an amount that you're like, I'll always just say, like, it's got to be an amount that you're willing to lose, because it's within the realm of possibilities that you go over. So you just got to make sure you're willing to part. For me, I consider it my entertainment budget, especially amid a pandemic. Like, I'm not doing much else. So this is, that's kind of how I look at it. Like, this is entertainment for me. So, that's, hopefully it's always, but I'm competitive. I like to win. And I try to look for places where, I think I have a good shot, but I'm also, if I don't win, it's not the end of my world either. So yeah. Should be fun.
Yeah. Well, hey, enjoy the Super Bowl, and we'll,
all right. Yeah. You too. Enjoy it. And, hope it's a great game. We deserve a great game.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Josh, thanks again.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Okay, bye.
All right.